Hey everybody, welcome back to Cheap Comic Collector. This is episode number 171, and today is going to be another What Am I Reading episode. And I'm filming this actually Thanksgiving evening, even though it won't be airing until December 4th. And hit a little bit of a rough patch. My best arcade location is kicking me out after almost 2 years of being in there. And so that I'm going to lose about over half my revenue from not being in that location. And unfortunately, my mom's mental health is deteriorating rapidly. And I don't feel I can spend the time to go find a new location. So the last several days I've been, they kind of screwed me over. They didn't give me any kind of advance notice. They just told me the Saturday before Thanksgiving that I had to be out by the end of November. And that's against our agreement. They've broken actually, they've never done anything on their end of the bargain since I was in there. And yet somehow they're unhappy with me. Anyway, I don't really know what's going on. Instead of talking to me like normal people would and letting me know what was going on, they just decided to surprise kick me out. And as a result, I'm having to leave my mama home alone for hours every day, and that's not helping her mental health either. And she's in danger of falling. And if I had had enough notice, my sister or my brother could have came down, and I could have taken care of business. And instead, I'm having to deal with this and basically sell my games off for nothing compared to what they're worth, just to get them out the door, so I don't have to store them. Because once they go into storage, then I'm stuck with high storage costs that are never going to go away. So anyway, that's what's going on. So if I feel a little bit out of it, it's part of it is because I haven't done this for several days, because I've been dealing with that. And and if I seem tired, it's because I've been moving games and so on and so forth. I've just been exhausted lately. So anyway, I had a nice Thanksgiving, so that's good. Tomorrow it's back to trying to get rid of games again. So anyway, let's get into it. We got Kid Cold Outlaw number 169 from 1973. And I did read these several days ago before all this happened. I was going to film an episode, and then I started thinking I was going to film this episode like 3 times, and then ended up not doing it because I was tired, and too tired and exhausted and just falling asleep. So we're finally here, but I'm not sure how much of these comics I'm actually going to remember. So fair warning. I don't know. So we got Kid Cold Outlaw number 169. Nice 20-cent cover. Looks like this cover came in damaged enough where I actually did the archival tape on the spine. And got a nice cover. I'm not seeing who this is from. You know what? I'm going to try and film 2 or 3 episodes tonight just to kind of get back on track. So I actually have my laptop right here. Let me pull up good old GCD. And I'll be able to pull up the information of the comics while we go through them. Except I'm trying to type in Two Gun Kid instead of Kid Cold Outlaw. Here we go. All right. Kid Cold Outlaw. Wow, Wow, that series started way back in 1949. I didn't realize it went back that far. I know there was a couple different versions of Kid Colt. I remember reading that before, but I didn't realize they had continued the same numbering all that time. And you're probably looking at the top of my head. I'm sorry. I'm leaning forward to see the screen better. And I'm sorry, I'm going through the pages of thumbnails here looking for the correct issue. I guess I should have just typed the issue number in. Would have been faster. There it is. Alrighty, so the cover is by Gil Kane. I thought it might have been, but I wasn't sure. It's got his heavy inking style on there, which I think is I've never been a real big fan of Gil Kane's artwork. This is decent, but I think it's because of he goes so heavy on the inking, part of the reason that I didn't find his work that interesting. Sometimes if he's doing like a monster story or something like that, it fits really well. But anyway, so we got page 1. The story is Give Me Your Guns by Stan Lee and Jack Keller. Looks like it was reprinted from 1959, number 87. And in this one, Kid Colt gets recognized, so the town's trying to capture him, and he gets captured, sort of, but the sheriff lets him go. Or no, the sheriff hires him to take his place for a little while. To kind of help him out, because he's I forget if he's getting old or if he's got a hurt shoulder or what the deal was, but it's just a quick story. He kind of is helping keep the town peaceful. He settles down without his guns, and these other, when the bad guys come in, that's what it was. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up stories from the last issue that I looked at. In this one, the sheriff welcomes him as long as he gives up his guns. So he's living a peaceful life in the town, even though they had tried to capture him at the beginning of the story. And then the sheriff's out of town, and the Kid Colt had given his word that he wouldn't use his guns, but then he has to because some other bad guys, some bad guys come into town. They try to rob the bank. So Kid Colt stops them. But he uses his guns, and so he leaves town because he's a man of his word, even though he's a hero. So kind of a dumb ending, but yeah, that's what it was. Next one's called The Sacrifice, and it's just kind of no featured characters in this one. It's reprinted from Western Outlaws and Sheriffs, number 65 in 1951. It's got pencils by, looks like they're guessing it's pencils by Rocky Mastroserio. And this one was an Indian story. Let's see if I remember. This is really heavy on the inking too. But that might just depend on the style of whoever the penciler is too. If the inker has to fill in a lot, it all depends. It's a team effort. It all depends on what they have to work with. Sometimes the inker, sometimes the penciler, all they do is kind of sketch a little layout, and the inker is actually the guy who's creating a lot of the artworks. So it all depends on what was going on. Okay, yeah, I kind of remember this story towards the end there. There's a Indian that a white boy that gets captured by the Indians, and the chief raises him as his son. So the chief's real son hates him. They grow up, and then the chief's son does something bad. He kills some settlers or something. I don't know exactly what. And then the white son takes the blame, and then they end up fighting at the end, and that's they're both dead at the end of it. That's just great ending there, guys. Okay. And then the next story is The Man Who Drew Against Drago, Kid Outlaw, by Stan Lee and Jack Keller, which a lot of these are. This one's from Gunsmoke Western number 50 from 1959. So these were all reprinted stories with a new Gil Kane cover. And this one is your basic, bully in town. Kid Colt's the only one in town that'll stand up to him, and that's pretty much what it boils down to. Is Kid Colt outdraws him, and then leaves town. So, and then you have they stuck a bullpen bulletins in here. The latest lowdown on Marvel's lighthearted luminaries for literature lovers at large. Those are always fun to look through. And that was pretty much it. It was good. It was a good issue, but the stories were kind of basic and simple. They didn't really have any of that like twist ending that you don't see coming or anything like that. It was just kind of all traditional Western stories with no big plot twists or anything like that. Next up, we got KAMANDI number 35 from 1975. And just for fun, I'm going to pull that issue up here also and see what information there is about it. I mean, it's probably all just Jack Kirby, but we'll take a look anyway just to make sure. Maybe it'll be the first appearance of somebody or other. Who knows? So... Just me, or his Grand Comics database gotten a little bit harder to use lately, where the titles aren't quite in order or something anymore. Maybe I'm just tired. I know I'm tired, but I don't know. That's why I feel like that. All right, number 35. I was wrong. It's a Joe Kubert cover. There it is. Yep, I should have known that. It looks just like a Joe Kubert cover. It even has his name on it. All right, so yeah, this is from 1975. Dr. Canis, something moved. Maybe that astronaut is still alive. And then this thing is coming out of the spacesuit here. Creepy, man. Creepy. All right, so looks like the first story is by Jack Kirby. It's got inks by Bruce Berry. And I haven't read very much KAMANDI, so this one was a little bit of a different take for me. He's actually in space. So this is them looking in a spaceship, looking down on planet Earth. So obviously it's been look at that. I mean, talk about a Jack Kirby scene right there. So yeah, him and this canine doctor evolved dog thing are in space. I guess this is the girl alien that put him out there. And there's several chapters, but it's all the same story. And so they're exploring, trying to figure out how to get back down to Earth, and typical Jack Kirby machines and things. And there's a letter page, the time capsule, and there's a Shazam hostess Twinkies ad, and a Superman and Batman ad for all the titles that they're in. And anyway, they find a spaceman that's supposed to be still alive after all these years. He's in a yoga position there. He has slowed down his metabolism or something so that he can survive for however many years it's been since the great cataclysm or whatever they call it that happened. There's an ad here for CBS Saturday. Bugs Bunny, Roadrunner, Scooby-Doo, Shazam, ISIS, Far Out Space Nuts, Ghostbusters, Harlem Globetrotters, Fat Albert, Pebbles and Bam Bam. I remember pretty much all of these shows, so this is probably where I had my TV tuned to on Saturday mornings at that time. Definitely remember Bugs Bunny, Scooby-Doo. Although I kind of remember Scooby-Doo, watching Scooby-Doo in the afternoons after school, not necessarily on Saturdays. But I remember watching Shazam. ISIS, more often than not, I tuned out. I remember some Space Nuts. I don't really remember Ghostbusters. I know I watched Fat Albert. So there's a good chance for most of the time that's where I was tuned to. And then the space thing is actually this thing. It's not a regular person, or it was a person that was evolved because of the cosmic rays, waves of cosmic rays or whatever that were coming from the planet after the big disaster, the great disaster. I think that's what they call it. So slashes, shockwaves, they're listening to recordings and stuff. So, and then that's kind of all there is to it. It's obviously continued. I can't remember if they get back to Earth or if they're still in space. They follow the alien into her ship, so it could go either way. They're still in space, but they may be going back to Earth. So, interesting story. It was pretty good. Like I said, I've never really read Kamandi before. He always seemed to me to be, I don't know, he looks like a caveman, right? So I always kind of assumed that he was who's the other boy character that DC has that was like the caveman? I forget his name. Oh well. Anyway, to me they always seem like the same character, except this is actually supposed to be after the Earth has been destroyed, basically after humanity has been destroyed and stuff. So even though he looks like a caveman, he's actually in the future. So anyway, next up, Donald Duck from 1974. We got issue number 159. And cute little cover of Donald being surprised by a gopher. Nothing that I'm going to hang on my wall, but it's kind of cute. Donald's drawn in a little bit of an odd style on the cover. It looks like it might be a Tony Strobel cover. He did that short beak some of the time. And Donald Duck's usually a little bit hard to look up on GCD as well, just because they'll list it in different places. The lists, some of the series they have listed as Donald Duck. Some of them it's listed as Walt Disney's Donald Duck, and it's gone through a lot of different publishers with the same numbering. So sometimes it's a little bit hard to figure out what you're looking for. This was number 159. So let's see. Let me jump to page 3. Oh, missed it by one issue. It's on page 2. All right. I hope you can hear me. I'm not talking real loud, but it's quiet, so I'm hoping the sound is okay. I guess I'll find out once I get done filming. And there we have Donald Duck. All right, Tony Strobel did not do the cover. It is done by someone named John Carey. I do not know who that is. Not a name I've heard of before. And like I said, this is from 1974. And, oh, I remember this. Okay. Yeah, I like this story. This is probably my favorite issue in the set because of this story. So, this story is the Donald Duck, the Loch Erie Monster. It's very much written in kind of a Karl Barks tradition. It actually by Carl Fahlberg with pencils by Tony Strobel, inks by Steve Steer. Never heard that name either, but that's what it says. So it was originally printed in number 59 in 1958, and this is 159 in 1974. So anyway, Uncle Scrooge, Donald, and the kids are at his ancestral castle in Scotland. And if you're familiar with the Karl Barks and Don Rosa mythology of Uncle Scrooge, you'll know that that's featured in a few very wonderful stories. And this is pretty good actually for not being by Karl Barks. This is a decent story, and the artwork is really nice. I mean, for Tony Strobel, look at the art here with the raining and the castle. Tony Strobel's stories normally don't have this detail of art in them. And some of his early issues did when they were still doing adventure stories like this. And that shows you what a great artist he really was. He just didn't have the scripts later to work with to show off his talents as well as he could have. So anyway, yeah, they're at the castle. Donald and the boys are kind of wondering what Uncle Scrooge's up to because he paid for their trip, and so he's up to something. And they spot him out on the battlements in the night, in the rain, with binoculars. And this is the Scottish caretaker on the castle, and he's actually looking for this. Basically Loch Ness monster that's in his lock next to the castle. And the boys tame it with the help of their junior woodchuck manual. And, it's kind of got some comic endings. It's not the full-on adventure comic that some of the Uncle Scrooge stories are. And it's more, it's played for comedy more than adventure, which is fine. But it was good. It was quite good. I was surprised that I had never seen it before, and surprised that there was something that good in here. So, and then there's a little Bad Wolf text story called Pop Stopper. I didn't read this one. I think this is new. Yeah, this wasn't a reprint. This is the artwork topper here is by Larry Mayer, it says. And the Disney credits are usually pretty extensive because there's this whole Disney collectible community that does that especially on Disney comics that have tracked down. There's a database online where you can look up basically any Disney comic from anywhere in the world, and it'll tell you where the story originally appeared and so on and so forth. And Grand Comics Database has tapped into that and used that for the credits on most of the Disney stories that they have listed, which is all of them. And so lastly, we have Donald Duck. This one was originally printed in Walt Disney's Comics and Stories 192. Yeah, 192 from 1956. So we got Donald and the Boys. It's a contest. Donald claims that he become master of anything after reading a book. And of course the kids are both like, oh boy, fun. So they find him a help wanted ad where he needs to be an expert at a salmon hatchery, which seems like an odd choice, but for a Carl Barks story. But anyway, it's got a few gag panels where he messes up on the job and the boss is getting mad at him. And eventually he does, I believe he does save the day eventually. Nope, he gets tarred and feathered. So yeah, that's it. This was definitely my favorite of the bunch, just because it has that first Donald Duck story in it that I really enjoyed. Next up, Convergence Titans number 1 and 2. We're finally getting towards the end of the Convergence issues. There's only a couple more series to go after this one. So right off the bat, they had this great splash panel of the original Teen Titans, so I thought it was going to be that team that I was going to be reading about. So I got all excited. It's written by Fabian. I don't know how to say his last name. Nicesia. I'm sure I just murdered that. Written, that was the writer. Ron Wagner's a penciler. Jose Marzan Jr. is the inker. But that's not actually what happens. What they're doing is Speedy's narrating, and it's going through his history. So it's all flashbacks to his history of when he was on drugs, when he had his daughter, he lost his arm, stuff like that. So they're under the dome. He doesn't have his arm. It's the entire story is narrated by him about his daughter, losing his daughter because he's trapped under the dome, and so on and so forth. So Donna and Starfire are there too. The dome goes away. They get their powers back, and they celebrate by flying. This was really well written. It was good. Just not what I wanted after I saw that first splash panel. So the extremists show up, and they have to fight them. And basically, Starfire and Donna are getting beat up. Roy's on backup. He puts on this cybernetic arm, goes to save the day, and the one extremist guy has his daughter from another universe, so he has to make a choice between saving her or giving up. And it ends on that cliffhanger on what is he gonna do. And then it goes to the next episode. And this one here, this is actually the regular cover of number 2. So they did have normal issues. I just don't have that many of them with nice covers instead of these weird design half cover things. And in number 2, same creative team. And basically Roy took out the scaffolding behind the extremists to take them out and create a diversion where he captures the kid. And then Cyborg and Changeling arrive. It took them long enough, right? I don't know why it took them so long. But apparently it mentions that Beast Boy Changeling has been trapped as a pigeon ever since the dome came down, because that's the form he was in when the dome came down. And that's just, I don't know, something kind of funny to think about. And so Roy takes the girl back to his safe house. The extremist actually appears inside of there and basically keeps forcing him to choose. Meanwhile, he has used Wayne Foundation money to set up weapons all over the city, which he can use to target the extremists. So he does that and basically saves the day. Kind of redeems himself because he gets his kid back, even though it's a different, alternate version of her or something. And then that's pretty much it. They win, and that's it. So it was good. It was well written. It was interesting. It was pretty good. Yeah, definitely. This is probably my second favorite after the Donald Duck, and really the Donald Duck is just because of my my personal preference. But they were all good. Kid Cold Outlaw was actually the biggest disappointment because the issues were, the stories were pretty simple, just quick little Western stories that were just kind of thrown out there. They wasn't a whole lot of effort put into the stories on those, even though they were by Stan Lee. But yeah, so Donald Duck favorite, Convergence second favorite, then Kamandi and Kid Colt. So that'll do it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to my little bit of a rant there at the beginning. Trust me, it could have been a lot worse because I was really upset. Not because they were kicking me out. That's just part of the business. But the way they did it, they've actually... endangered my mother's health. And this is all stuff they knew about. It's not like they don't know about my personal life. I've been in there for a year and a half. They know that I don't have my truck to move games with right now, because of the accident. They know about my mom. They know all of this, and I even met with them. Probably about a couple months ago, I met with the manager who originally brought me in, and had a little conversation with him and asked him, first of all, told him I was ready to bring in new games, but that I needed to see some kind of commitment from them because, they didn't do anything that they ever said they were going to do the entire time I was in there. They were going to build this and they were going to build that and they were going to change this so I'd have a bigger arcade, because we squeezed everything we could in there because that's the instructions they gave me. And then they weren't happy with that because they never gave me any additional room. And but that's on them. And then there was supposed to be we brought ticket games in because there was supposed to be a ticket counter where you could win prizes, and they didn't build that like they said they were going to. They just created a space on the wall where you come in and get the, purchase the it's in a Sky Zone. It's in a Sky Zone in Claremont, Florida. And it's Sky Zone is like a trampoline park. It made a lot of money while I was in there. But we never went to newer games because they were never willing to commit to doing anything like they kept promising they would. And I can't go spending $150,000 on new games and go into debt for the rest of my life if they're not going to, give me a contract or at least show me some kind of sign that I'm actually, going to be in there for a while. And so I asked them, about it, and they just basically said they'd get back to me instead of reassuring me. And so I told them, well, if you are going to, if you are going to replace me, then just let me know. Give me enough notice. Give me like a month's notice. My situation. You give me enough time to work it out. And they didn't do that. And according to the manager who told me about this, the new guy that's coming in, that's bringing in new equipment, which I've been offering to do since day one, they actually they actually signed a contract with him for a lesser percentage than what I've been paying them. And with new games, they might make more money, but they've basically signed a contract for less money. So I don't really understand what the point of screwing me over was, except for the fact that they could. And this is run by a church. It's called the Family Christian Center. That has a school. There's a private Christian school and a church, and then the Sky Zone is attached to that as like a business thing for the kids to do, and it's kind of run as a ministry, sort of. I think basically so they can take the tax write off or whatever. I don't know. Obviously, they're not very Christian like people, or they wouldn't have done this to me, because not only have they put my mom's life in danger, basically, and then they've also kind of crippled me financially. I'm not, with my house paid off, I'm not in danger. I can still meet my bills and stuff, but I'm not going to have all the extra money that I thought I was, which is one of the reasons I started doing the comic books, because I was gonna, I had all this extra money now that I thought I could get back into comics. So I'm not sure where I'm going to be with that. And I don't really have the opportunity to grow my income because I have to take care of my mom. So I'm kind of stuck with what I have and hope it doesn't get any worse. And hopefully, if a location falls in my lap, then that's great. But I can't take the time to go find one, because it's hard. That's the hard part of the job, is finding new locations. So, and especially finding one that would replace, as much money as this place made. So, anyway, thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's episode, we're gonna do trading. We got a couple trading episodes we have to get done so that I can send these guys their books. They've sent me their books, and I owe them the books they ordered. But I want to do an episode first and show you guys what's up. So tune in for that. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.